Y'all, I gotta be honest, I was a bit disappointed in this show. I wanted a row of carnivals. What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about the brand new series on Prime Video, and that is Carnival Row. I need you down in the comments. Have you watched this series? Did you enjoy it? Let's get into it. So a human detective and a fairy rekindle a dangerous affair in a Victorian fantasy world where the city's uneasy peace collapses when a string of murders reveals an unimaginable monster. The series stars Orlando Bloom, Cara Delevingne, and a plethora of really good actors. You know, it may not be an actor that you see and you're like, I know that guy's name, but it's probably going to be an actor that you see and you're like, he's been in or she's been in multiple things this year, such as a Carla Crome or a Jared Harris. Jared Harris, of course, being in Chernobyl, and now he's in this, and he's popped up in multiple movies, and the guy's having a really good year. And I was excited for this series. You know, it's not very often that you get a fantasy-esque show on a Netflix or a Prime Video or a Hulu that does what this show is managing to do. And it's managing to take elements of things that we know and we have seen before, but it's combining them with a lot of things, but it's combining them with things that we find today entertaining, such as a procedural cop drama or a murder mystery or politics, and we'll get into the politics here in a bit. But what I've mentioned thus far, it sounds extremely appealing, especially when you have Orlando Bloom at the helm, and not everyone's an Orlando Bloom fan. I don't really have anything against the guy. I actually kind of like him, especially when you go back to his early Pirates of the Caribbean days, but I really enjoy his presence. And even though I enjoy his presence, I was a bit worried. Is he going to have the Orlando Bloom of old vibe? Yeah, I'm ready to go, ready for action. Or is it going to do something a bit different? And the second I heard his accent, I'm like, all right, he's very just gruntled and deep and grizzled, and he's ready to solve the case, but solve this case specifically that he gets on track for around episode 2, and he did a good job in the show, and someone who I was a bit fearful for because Cara Delevingne, you know, she's not been the best. Nothing against her as an actress. She's extremely ridiculously talented in many different fields, but every time I've seen her in a movie, it's just not worked for me. But she was significantly better in this show than I've ever seen her, and I wasn't ready to accept the fact that, you know, Cara, she's kind of turning me around, but by the end of the series, or by the end of season 1, I'm like, yeah, she did a good job as this character because she provides this character the emotion that you need to gravitate towards her. Does she overwhelm me with her incredible acting prowess? No, but she's good. She's better than I thought she would be. And their chemistry is something else I was worried about because, one, I'm like, the age difference, that might be a bit off-putting. And two, it's just, I don't know how these two actors are going to interact. But I got on board, especially when you get into episode 3, I believe, when you actually dive into their backstory, because episodes 1 and 2, while I was kind of enjoying myself, I'm like, this is slow, and it's not found its footing, and I don't know which direction it's going to go. Well, even by episode 8, I still don't think it picked a direction, because there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things that work, a few things that don't work. It's not a show that 100% finds its footing in the first season, right? But it sets up some things, and it gets you ready, prepared for what a second season could be, and it does provide a few elements where you can sit back and go, you know what, Carnival Row is cool, and I think it all starts with the world building. This world is vast. This world is full of elements, whether it is the mythical creatures inhabiting Earth, just like the humans are, and they're all living together, living with each other. Recalling the movie Bright on Netflix a few years ago, whether you liked or disliked that movie, I thought the concept was extremely cool. You look at a movie like Onward coming from Pixar, and no, I don't think there are humans in that movie, but it is a similar-esque world when you look at the fact that mythical creatures have just as many rights and are doing just as many, well, I don't want to say just as many rights, are doing just as many things as the humans are doing, and it provides for some interesting storylines in this season in particular, because you have one storyline where a brother and a sister, someone moves in, they're not happy that that person has moved in, maybe it does or does not have to do with where they come from or what they are, right? Then you have another storyline that's kind of covering all of the politics, and this is Jared Harris's character, and it starts out on an extremely interesting note because something happens to their child, and they're trying to figure out who is behind this, and then you figure out there is a reveal of sorts, and you figure out what is actually happening. And while it started out interesting, I think my biggest issue with this season is the fact that the politics just don't measure up to the other storylines going on in the show. The murder mystery aspect with Orlando Bloom's character is interesting enough. It's conventional, we've seen it before, and it starts to become a bit predictable, but they dive into the storyline between our two leads enough and give you a nice love story and a reason for those two to connect, so you buy that storyline, you buy this storyline, you buy that one. Then there are one or two more where you're like, okay, this is just taking up time at this point. And that's another issue I have with this season. And there are a lot of things that just kind of waste your time. And I hate to say that with 8 episodes because, in my opinion, not for every series, but for a lot of series, when you go 8 episodes, usually it's perfect, right? Not too long, not too short. You get just enough time with the characters, especially if every episode is around 45 minutes to an hour. This show did that, but it wasted a lot of time on things that I don't think were necessary for us to get as much out of the story as we could have gotten, because just this world, just the establishment of lore, and really the costume design and most of the special effects, you get into the CGI realm, it doesn't work all the way, but for the budget, and the fact that this is a show on Prime Video, I'm like, these are pretty good. Once again, surpassing my expectations because my expectations were not high when it comes to special effects. And the look of this world starts out dark and dreary, and it remains dark and dreary throughout most of the series, but you start to pick up on the vibe that they're going for. It is a dark world with dark characters and dark things happen. This is not a family-friendly show necessarily. There's a lot of violence, a lot of sex, and a lot of things in there. If you're debating on whether or not you should watch this show if you're of a certain age, I would just pay attention to those things because Carnival Row, it is very adult. It does take vibes from Game of Thrones, and a lot of those vibes, they come together well, and it's not a straight ripoff, right? Because you're in a completely different time, more in reality, and there is technology in a sense for the time period, right? But you do have these factions, these different groups of people, and wars going on, or that did go on between groups of people, and it did take me a bit to learn, okay, there are fairies, and there are fauns, and there is this, and there is that, and this group of people can do this thing while this other group can do this other thing, and it's interesting. Once you start learning, okay, here's a faction here, and this group of people does not like this group of people, yet they come together, they live together in harmony, so they call it, and it's interesting. And there's lore there, and I say the word lore. Lore is important when you have a show like this, establishing all of these characters to kind of get you prepared for what's to come in the future if this show gets a season 2, and I hope it does, because I do think they can capitalize on a lot of the things that they set up here. But in season 2, what I don't want them to focus on as much, and I mentioned the politics, and it's just so like, sometimes politics in a show or a movie, it comes across as interesting. Occasionally it can be exhausting, and I'm not saying this was ridiculously exhausting, but I am saying Carnival Row could have refrained from that, maybe given us a more complex mystery instead of a conventional mystery. I like the creature design. Certain creature designs that come around towards the end and the beginning too. You know, some of the CGI, like I said, it's not 100% there, but it does enough to get you into the world, to get you on board with these characters, and a character in itself, Carnival Row, this big Victorian-era city, is a place where they spend the majority of the time, and it delves into important issues such as immigration and slavery in a sense, and there's a lot of things in there that you can take away and go, yeah, it was handled well. Nothing is extremely sloppy, but when you have so many things and they're coming together in one season of television, it becomes a lot. And the slow build-up combined with how many things are happening and the fact that I didn't care about every storyline makes me look at Carnival Row and say it's somewhat of a missed opportunity, but I will also say, before you hate me and turn off the video, I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would, and this is a show that has me looking forward to season 2. Is it going to get buried because of shows like The Boys and the inevitable Lord of the Rings series? It's going to feel very similar to this in a way. We don't know, but I really want to see what they have. All in all, I'm going to go a 68%, a solid 68% positive score for Carnival Row Season 1. Orlando Bloom surprised me. I'm on board with Cara Delevingne now in this series, and yeah, I enjoyed this one. I really did. Usually not the biggest fan of the period piece movies that take in fantasy elements, but this one got me, and we'll see what happens next. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hey, if you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. It helps out this channel and this video in particular. And also, some really cool things coming down the pipeline. My best and worst movies of August coming tomorrow, as well as a live stream because we hit 40,000 subscribers on this channel. Got a merch store in the description if you want to buy some shirts or some socks. I appreciate you guys for everything that you do. And of course, we're always on Patreon doing podcasts, movie reviews, whatever it is. And I'll see you very soon.